All right, everyone. I'm going to do a little bit of a site audit here. Let me get that question up. All right. So this client here is with us in managed link building currently, but they had been doing some a la carte link building through us for a while as well. They came to us and said, well, the links aren't making much of a difference while these competitors are killing it without seemingly having any good links. And they gave us a couple of people to look into. So we're going to go ahead and audit this site, kind of see what we get. And for that client out there, I'll just talk directly to you. Kind of looking this thing over, and it was a bit tricky, but I think I've kind of hammered down probably some advantages that these other sites have. And yeah, it took me a second because one of these specifically is rather confusing. All right, so starting off, it's a local site in the, let's say, automotive niche. And overall, I looked at the site. I think it looks pretty decent from an on-page standpoint. You've got everything you'd want to see there. There's a couple of things that I see as spammy, namely like these service areas all being, the same name with the areas served. And I know I saw one of the competitors that you named is doing just this, but this is not best practice. And then furthermore, when we jump in here, this is literally copy paste across all of these pages from what I saw. And that's not doing you any favors either. Again, just because your competitor's doing it, I would not advise taking these shortcuts. Any competitive edge that you give yourself is going to give you that edge in the search as well. And we're not just talking about Google search anymore. We're also talking about LLMs and AI search. You want to be found in there. So I would go ahead and clean that up, do, new unique content across all these pages and just diversify that much more, stand out that much more. I know a lot of these people are doing spammy stuff. I'm going to go ahead and go over them as well. But yeah, in my opinion, that's somewhere where you could really shine, without too much extra effort. And then I saw that your competitor is also doing, similar permalinks. I kind of prefer to just do maybe this here, but I don't think any of that's too terribly bad, to be honest with you. You can leave that as is, but I'd at least go ahead and do unique content here. I noticed, you don't have name, address, phone number anywhere. And then when we go and look at the actual Google search, I did see that you do have a map pack listing, but the address is hidden. So you're probably maybe you're just mobile. And that's fine. But I would still probably throw like an About Us page on here, do a little bit of EAT, and move from there. So let's talk about your site from an off-page perspective, right? We just had it up. Here I'm looking at it. I mean, anchors, everything looks, how I'd want to see it. Everything is natural, typically to the home page. Backlinks all looked clean. I didn't see anything that looked, out of the ordinary. I know you've got a 301 in here. The only thing that I didn't like about that is that it's going, I don't know where this place was. That's an Argentinian link. But anyhow, different geographic region. However, you can utilize websites like this. And I think that it's, close enough at least, being that it's another locksmith shop that you're fine to use it there. And you've had it sitting there for a long time too. So let's go back to the overview. If we look at it, I mean, everything is doing okay as far as a local site goes. You are coming up in keywords, though, typical to everybody. When AI SERPs started taking over, you lost some. However, I'd say, things are overall looking pretty good. You've got things on page 1 for different terms, etc. And then furthermore, if I use this website, which will kind of let me, it's kind of hit and miss sometimes, but it lets me search Australian SERPs. And so if I look at keys, I see that your site shows up here second, your site shows up here first, and you're beating out car. That other one, uh, isn't even showing up at all for this one. So I'd see you here exactly where I would want to see you. Top positions. I don't know exactly what you're trying to go after, but here, at least from where I'm looking, it looks like you're dominating that search. And then if we go to Ghost, here's where I saw like a little bit of a change, but I still see you here in third for the map pack. And then these guys. And this is where I got confused. These guys right here. What a website. I mean, there's nothing here. It's impressive that they've been ranking. But they do, I think, have a map pack. And it took me a while to kind of wrap my head around what might be going on here. But the main difference that I see why these two are beating you for these is that they both have, this one's got a partial match domain. So coast, right? And then this one is exact match coast, right? So if we actively look at these in Ahrefs, yeah, they don't have anything going on for them, really. They've got 11 referring domains. Like, there's no authority value. The website had like 3-4 index pages, I think, when I looked it up. But the only thing that they do have is an exact match domain name for this particular SERP query. And so, they're not ranking for as many keywords as you. They are completely flatlined as far as their rankings. And really, it's just, this is the only thing they're getting. And the reason is it's an exact match. I've seen people buy exact match like .net or .co or whatever and 301 it over, just even without power, just to add that reference in. It's something I guess you could try if you wanted to, but honestly, looking at this thing, I think what you need to do is just clean up that on page to be absolutely unique, no cutting corners. I looked on your blog and I saw that nothing had really been, 2 new articles have been added here. We'll just go look at them real quick. So 2 new articles had been done this month earlier. Before that, not much was going on. Like every once in a while, you'd throw something up. When I click on these, I'm looking at this and I'm going, huh, that sure looks just like copy paste chat GPT. And maybe I'm wrong, but I'd kind of be willing to bet on this one. If you want to do AI content, then you do need to edit it. All of this stuff is passable, and it can help here and there, but it's not throwing up AI content nilly-willy like that. I wouldn't do it. At least go in and add a human touch, add something new to the conversation. And that's going to help you out substantially. If you start spamming a bunch of AI content, especially on a local website, it typically doesn't go too well. It's just not something I would advise doing. And so again, these other websites are beating you, but like they are weak sites. I think, some of the things are you just have to play this more perfectly because you are not an exact match domain. However, since you're showing up in the map pack for that geographic region, I'd say it's pretty obvious that, Google understands where you're supposed to be and where you're doing business. So that's a good sign. I'd clean that stuff up. I would just do better than these two guys. Let's go ahead and look at the off page of this one. Again, I saw that these guys are doing some of that duplicate content and stuff like that too. Well, they've got a partial match domain here. And if we throw them into Ahrefs, and look at everything. They have 88 keywords, 66 traffic from like not very much going on. That is true. Anchors, this is all garbage here. So they really don't have very much going on at all. But what they do have is the partial match domain. And even still, if we go look at their rankings, everything that they're getting for the most part is related to as far as first page rankings. And again, the only variable that I can see that's different that's allowing them to do this is that partial or exact match domain. So if you're competing with them and Google is saying that's something that's very important, again, you can consider just buying a domain and 301ing it over just for that relevance. Personally, I would probably start altering that on-page stuff that I was saying, could stand to be altered. I'd probably start doing regular content and not just ChatGPT ripped stuff. And then I would add some elements of EEAT into your website as best you can. And from there, I think you're going to get a lot of advantage. Let me think here. I looked up, age of the domains to see if that was a factor. All of y'all are around the same age. All of y'all are, have plenty of history, etc. So yeah, I think the main advantage, every SERP is different, but the main advantage that I see is that they have those partial match domains, and yours is a branded domain. It's as far as geographic region goes anyway. So I would think that's the main advantage they have. However, again, looking at it, if we're talking about overall search, then your website is in fact doing substantially better than these other websites as far as, the health of the website goes. Yeah, and I would attribute a decent amount of that to the link building efforts that you've been putting in here. For it's interesting because if we go in there, is it this? Yeah, is still showing up here. You're showing up here, and then Border, right? Another branded guy. But then you pop up here on top of them. They've got in there, but there's nothing about here. And it looks like here we don't have .com or anything like that, right? And so here your website is doing very well, right? And the variable that I'm looking at here is that there is nobody with in the URL. So yeah, that actually took me a little while. It was a little bit tricky to figure out what was going on, especially when I saw this guy right here. What an amazing move up into search. But yeah, overall, again, I would clean up those on-page factors, add a little bit EEAT. And quite honestly, from what what I've gone over, I'd say from a backlinking perspective, you're whooping butt here. You can kind of just ensure that nobody's going to come up and start sniping positions by doing things right. But, I think the main focus that you need is definitely with the on-page factors. And then, if cleaning that stuff up, getting rid of that duplicate content and things of that nature don't work for you, then yeah, maybe I'd try, the 301 idea, because it does seem like Google does care about that, for that particular SERP. So, it could be to your advantage to do so. And then at the same time, don't let off the gas as far as building new content, especially informational. A lot of people are ignoring informational content right now because they're saying, oh, well, AI took over for everything, blah, blah, blah. But if you talk to the LLMs, right, and if you consider search patterns, like, you still need to be an authority on the subject. So, putting out the full content map and being the authority on a subject is exactly what all of these things are looking for when they want to reference a website, whether it's an LLM or something like Google, right? SEO, SEI, AI, or whatever you want to call it, right? So, let's take those things into consideration whenever we're putting these campaigns together, and make sure that we're not doing things like duplicate content. We're not cutting corners, especially now when we really need to ensure that we've got a competitive edge against everybody, because search is getting more complicated and it's getting more competitive. So yeah, uh, that would be my advice about this site. Really hope that helps, and I'll see you on the next one. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. If you found this helpful, make sure to give us a like, drop a comment, subscribe, so you don't miss out on any future SEO insights. And hey, if you're serious about your rankings, head over to SirLinksalot.co, check out our premium link building services, guides, and free SEO tools. See you next time.